Okay, we're live. I'm here with my buddy Nick. I'm going to have him introduce himself, and then we're going to get into some business ownership. So, buddy, the floor is yours.
So first off, thanks for having me on, Chris. This is I've been wanting to do this for a while, so this is great timing, and I was really excited when he reached out. So my name is Nick Mancuso. I'm the owner of Elevate Performance in Rochester, New York. Yeah, I mean, where do you want to start? You want to go all the way back to the first college days, or what?
Yeah, man, let's go back to like the Darwin's
Oh my God,
lifting, where it
Darwin's.
all started, and then the path to being a business owner.
So I'll go back even a little further. So I started exercising when I was about 15 years old. So my dad would take me to a World Gym by our house, and I got introduced to some pretty well-known people in the field. So one of them was a guy named Tony Natale. At the time, Tony was ranked number 2 in the world as an amateur trying to get his pro card for bodybuilding. So Tony kind of took me under his wing and showed me with my dad what exercise is, how to lift properly. Back then, it was kind of that grungy bodybuilding, like just throwing weight around. So I did that for a little while. And then I got introduced to a guy named Jay Shiner, who you might know. Jay was the Oriole strength and conditioning coach for 17 years. And he's in Rochester. And a good friend of mine, Chris, who I met through World Gym, brought me and introduced me to Jay. And I got to spend the whole day with him. And he kind of introduced me to the sports performance world. Again, I was in the bodybuilding world, which and I kind of carried that, but Jay had always kind of piqued my interest into the sports world. So when I was getting ready to go to college, I wanted to be a dietitian. So I ended up going to Buff State for dietetics, which was a phenomenal program, but I hated the school. I won't talk poorly about it, but it wasn't the greatest atmosphere. And I did that for 2 years, and I really learned so much about food and sports nutrition. And I feel like, honestly, through those 2 years, I got a full degree just from how well run the program was. And, we were doing stuff like organic chemistry of food molecules. It was very in depth. So after the 2 years, I said, I don't want to work in a hospital. I don't want to travel and spend 15 years trying to get on with a sports team. As you know, it's a long journey. So I transferred into Fredonia. At the time, Fredonia was just getting started into their kinesiology, and physiology department. Todd Backus had come over from Ohio State, and we were kind of the first wave of students. I think we are actually like the second class of students into that. So I get rolling into that and start learning biomechanics and all that good stuff. And I always joke, I was at a time in my life where I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of, do I become a personal trainer? Do I do strength conditioning? And at the time, I was dating a girl for quite a bit of time, and I thought she was the one. And like 2 weeks before school ends, we graduate, we break up, and I was lost. Like I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So that summer, you get a hold of me, and you're like, "Hey, I just I'm going out to Salisbury," and I'm like, "What the fuck is Salisbury?" So you introduced me to a couple people, and like 4 weeks later, I'm enrolled, I'm accepted, and we're finding housing together. So that was crazy. Go out to Salisbury, start a degree for our master's program, obviously get introduced to Matt Nine, 2-time strength coach of the year. I mean, just an incredible mentor. From there, I was able to move down to Florida and do an internship under Dr. Josh Cooper. He's got a great facility out in Florida and trains a lot of professional athletes, specifically NFL players. Worked under him for a while, ended up transferring out of Salisbury for some family stuff, and finishing on my master's in Buffalo at, oh my God, can't think of the school, Canisius. And, that was an interesting move on my end, because for years I thought I was going to be collegiate route and go into pro sports. But somewhere along the way, I really think it was going to Florida, I realized I wanted to go in the private sector. And that was a pivotal moment in my life, because it really led me to what I'm doing today. There's obviously 2 routes to go, and I chose to go private sector. So moving back home towards Buffalo was really beneficial for me. While I was in school, it was a hybrid program, so I could work at a facility called Jada Blitz. I was a manager there, and it was the first time I had taken all this background of strength and conditioning and all these avenues I've been and started applying it in a management position. Once I graduated, I actually got a message on LinkedIn from my former boss, Sam Owens, from Midtown Athletic Club. So if you don't know about Midtown, it's a massive club, very high end, and there was eight. I think there might have been nine even in the world. So there was one in Canada and then 8 in the US. And I was hired to become the first strength and conditioning coach in all those midtowns. So the Rochester location was the first place. And they basically gave me the keys to the whip, like open up the sports performance department and try to grow that out. So I did that for 5 years. While I was there, we actually flew out Dr. Nick Winkelman from Exos Performance, who's a good friend of mine now, who's just incredible, brilliant mind. He did like a 3-day certification hands-on with me. That was a phenomenal experience. And then I opened up Elevate 3 weeks before COVID hit, which is an entirely different story. And along the way, we've done really, really well. We're up to 15 employees. We're 4 years in now, or going on 4 years. And I'm kind of on this new wave of, I got linked up with David Alexander out in Miami, Florida, who I just finished 2 certifications, his first 2. And it really, really opened up my eyes to a new style of training. And we could talk about that, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Okay, so a couple things. One, I always knew you were gonna marry Julie. Whether you
Yes.
had a girl, to be honest, I
You're
don't
one
even
of the only
remember.
ones that knew that. Yes.
To be honest, I don't remember who you were dating in undergrad,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because I knew it
Doesn't
would be
matter.
Julie.
Yeah. 100%.
And then 2, I kind of always knew that you would end up owning your own business. And like even when we would train together at Darwin's or like Talk Shop or like at Salisbury, like I always knew that eventually you were gonna have your own place. And it's been really cool to just watch like you get the influence from Winkleman. You're talking about, this influence now that you have that I want to talk about, but like having that bodybuilding and then like having the nutrition and then having the like actual sports performance from Salisbury. And then when you went to Florida and did the private setting with the NFL guys, like, and a side note on that, like when we were both supposed to go to Pitt together and then
Oh
we
my
both flew
God.
Pitt off like on the
Yeah.
same day. That wasn't the best play on our part, but
That
like
was
for our
not.
careers, it worked
But
out
it
well.
worked out really well for both of us.
Both of us, it did. And so like,
Sorry to Pitt. Pitt
yeah, sorry to
Athletic.
Pitt. I've always wanted to say sorry to Pitt. But
And our
like,
formal announcement of an apology. So.
but the reality is like I always knew eventually you'd get there, and it's been cool to just see like the different influences and how they've like kind of come in, and then ultimately like you've taken those and you've put them into your own business, as opposed to like right out of school I start my business, this is what I know. It was like I'm going to pursue intelligence and knowledge from all of these people, and then I'm going to start my business, but still have people influencing me while I have my business. So it's been really cool to see. I don't want to say I knew all along, but I knew all along it was going to
Ah,
come to
well,
this.
thanks, buddy. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
so tell me about Elevate now. Like you said, you have
Yeah.
15 employees. What's your clientele? What's your like? Do you classes one-on-one? Like, what's it look like there?
So Elevate is interesting because, like you just said, there's so many avenues that I truly feel, passionate about in fitness. Um, I could not just say I'm going to be a group instructor, a personal trainer, a strength and conditioning coach, a nutritionist. What I wanted to do, and I've done, which is incredible. It's still kind of, talking about it's like, whoa. We've taken this giant bubble of fitness and kind of honed in on 2 things. Uh, Being the kind of top tier sports performance specialist. So what does that look like? We kind of created what an Elevate coach is. Our standards for hiring process, our standards for when we bring interns on, from the minute we hire a coach all the way through the process of what someone's getting when they walk through the door is so top end. And I say that humbly. what I've really done is I've looked at all these people from around the world, and one of the greatest stories I have, you were actually with me. I still think about this every single day when I wake up. Chris Gentry is a legend in strength and conditioning. If you don't know him, Virginia Tech strength and conditioning coach from some absurd amount of time, almost 30 years. Someone like that, we went to a speaking event in Virginia, and I'll never forget the guy from Marshall, and I don't even remember his name, shame on me, but he gets up to speak. And at this conference, he's a nobody. You got Kazkazada, you got all these people that are just big names. And Chris Gentry sits down with a notepad, asks a zillion questions, and takes pages of notes. And everyone else is just, dicking around in the back. And it really opened my eyes to, like, you can literally learn from anybody. So I've always taken that and just been like, what can I mold and make our strength coaches? And then on the flip side, the second part to this is, what do I make the community? So we're known for, when you walk through our door, there's just a different sense of community. And what does that mean, right? So the amount of attention to detail, for training, but also personal lives. What's your family doing? Where do your kids go to school? There's such an important aspect when you're working with a college kid, a high school athlete, a 70-year-old golfer. I mean, there's so much to it, but at the base of it, it's a one-on-one thing at that moment. Even if it's the team setting, you need to know who's in, who you're training, and why. And that's something that we've really honed in on. So we are primarily a one-on-one facility. I'd say we probably do 95% of our business through one-on-ones. And right now we're roughly doing 300 privates a week, which is an absurd amount of private training. From my knowledge, we're the only facility in Rochester that is turning a profit on one-on-one training. It's very difficult to do. The way we've been able to do it is on those two aspects.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of people through your doors,
Yeah,
300 a week.
yeah,
And
it's a lot.
so are you taking kids to like the track, the field to do stuff too, or is it just weight room only?
So we do a mix of everything. So our services vary from nutritional, consultations into full programming. We also do group classes, small group classes that could be performance classes like team training. It could also just be like a HIIT class. We also offer obviously one-on-one training, and then we do stuff like semi-privates, moms and daughters that come in. The unique thing about even our Gen Pop, athletes that come in, they're all athletes. So like right now, I have a woman, I love her. I mean, she's probably one of my favorite people on earth. She's in her upper 70s. She's a phenomenal tennis player. Everyone that comes through our door is competitive in some aspect, even if it's an individual sport, which I find so fascinating, because you go into so many gyms and you could find anybody, right? This is such a unique, everyone's here for a specific goal, and everyone knows each other and loves each other. It's been really, really cool watching the community aspect of that grow. To answer your question about going to the field and stuff, so we'll talk about David Alexander a little bit. I went out last year it was in the summer. I got a certification, his level 1 certification from David Alexander. He owns DBC in Miami, Florida. He also just opened another location out in California. David, in my eyes, is the pioneer for one thing, and it is massive. So you'll appreciate this. People probably watching this podcast will appreciate it. He, in my knowledge, is the first ever private sector strength and conditioning coach, and he actually goes by personal trainer, which is a unique thing. We could talk about that after. People kind of shit on what the word personal trainer is. When you think of that, you think of someone that gets a paper certificate and now they're online selling programs, right? We know what we're thinking of. So he goes by personal trainer, and he wears that with pride. He is so educated. He has every certification you could think of and threw him out the door. What he has done well is take all these aspects, kind of like what I want to do, and he's bridged the gap for the first time ever to be hired privately by sports teams. So now 3 NBA teams privately employ him to be their strength and conditioning consultant. that has never happened before. They literally wiped out their team of strength coaches and hired him. So he bridged that gap, which I can't thank him enough because it's done so much for our world. So I go down there to Miami. Um, I bet, I've been around, I've seen a lot of strength conditioning. I left this certification and I was like, I'm a fucking idiot. I literally was like, I know absolutely nothing. And here's what he did. It's so simple. He took the 7 main movements, right? Your push, pull, squat, lunge, all that stuff. And he created 2 things. And that was the second part of the certification. It's a 50 joint assessment. Now, he was an ATC to start. So he's looking at this through that lens. So he takes a 50 joint assessment and it takes an hour if you do it right. And it spits out a perfect rehabilitation program and strength conditioning program for any athlete. And within those 7 movements, the first part of the certification, he teaches you on those 7 movements, all the things that we're teaching wrong in the industry and why. And it's all science-based. So I actually think I have like right here, I keep them very close to me. So this is like his level 2 certification book. And if you go through it, each book details every reference and what study they're getting this from. It's the most science-backed training I've ever seen.
So what is the official name of his course?
So level 1 is biomechanics and human movement.
Okay.
It's just the level 1. Level 2 is the DBC assessment. And then level 3, which just came out, I have not taken yet, but it is the performance aspect. So it's anything of speed, plyo, agility stuff.
Okay. So what aspects of that are you taking for yourself? Obviously, you're talking about the assessment. Like, are you doing the whole assessment when people walk through your door? Are you taking bits and pieces? Are you just like, I'm a fucking idiot now. I need to start studying more, like a little bit of
So
everything.
at first I went back and they're so open, which I love. Strength conditioning coaches can go one of each way. You can either be a hard nose, like I'm not giving you any information, which I hate, or you can just be an open book, right? Like here's what we're doing. So they gave us flash drives of every study. And I challenged myself, like I'm gonna go back and read every fucking study in here, which I started doing. I have like 5 left out of this huge PDF file. And what it really opened my eyes to was, why are we doing things that we've been doing? It reminded me it's so much of physical therapy. Physical therapists, when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but they were like the gold standard, right? And somewhere along the way, they just never stopped, or they stopped learning. And strength and conditioning just blew them out of the water. So now people come to us all the time that they're like, I'm not going, I went to physical therapy for 2 weeks. You're doing stuff 10 times more beneficial. We're like bypassing physical therapists. And that's because we've, I hope people in our field are doing what David's doing and researching and studying. Um, the way David got started, he met Rich Paul and invited, LeBron to a workout. Great timing, and it developed into LeBron, said, hey, you gotta get this guy, you gotta get this guy. But here's just an example of what this assessment can do. So Chris Paul kept getting injured. He gets injured again, like tore his hamstring, I think. Goes to David, he runs through this assessment, and he finds that something as simple as his big toe mobility on the right side of his foot, he's not able to plant off. So every time he gets in and out of a lunge pattern, he's losing almost 60% of his hamstring function, which then causes knee to dive forward, and he's putting all the stress into the patella tendon. And eventually that side of his body, the hamstring, gets super weak. 1,000 reps of that, he tears his hamstring. David brings this to the team, and they get into this huge fight, and they ended up going with him, and he starts doing this assessment. So what I've done, it's a lot of money when people want to buy this assessment. I've made 2 versions. So I have my DBC assessment, and then I also have what I created as an Elevate assessment. So it's about 30 joints, and a couple different tests that I threw in, as well as gait screening and other things from Cooper's. and other things that I've built in through Mat9, you know, so I've just taken everything I've had along the way and I've made an Elevate assessment. That's what I typically do with every single person that comes through the door. And it starts with still photos, you know, just you know, it could be a sports bra and shorts, it could be just shorts, you know, for male, female. We're looking at the front, every plane. We're looking at neuro testing. We're looking from the base of the skull all the way to the big toe. And we're doing measurements and getting numbers, and then, you know, testing spine angles, and we're going through the whole thing. So I know, you know, is your pelvic tilt when you're in flexion, is it out of its normal range? Then I could build you a program. Before, I'm taking a look at someone like, oh yeah, you know, let's do an FMS screen. Oh, I grade you a 2. What the fuck is that? You know, like give me a number. So that's kind of where we've taken it, and that's what we're implementing for all our coaches. So when I say we're trying to be the forefront of education, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the assessment part is really something that's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like bipolar, or just like there's two, like the one side is like, oh, I just watch a warm up and I can tell you if he's good or bad or she's good or bad. And then the other side is like, I have this really in-depth, you know, look at you, I can tell you everything. And then there's everything in between. And then, you know, sometimes like you assess somebody and then that's just collecting dust and like you don't actually use that data. And then the athletes you're working with are like, well, why are we doing this if you're not using this? Like, I think regardless of what assessment you really use, you have to have data, one, that you can show people either what their limitations are or their strengths are, and two, like data that's going to be used to drive programming. And I think those are like the big aspects of assessments for me. And I think if it's not something that's like driving decision making, like cut it out. Or if there's a way that you can make something better, like you say, you know, FMS, like a 0, 1, 2, or 3 versus like, you know, a 0 to 100 scale, and like I can objectively make this better. Because you know how it is, like a 2 squat is very like there is a range within a 2, and like we kind of joke, like I joke around with my people in my circle. It's like, oh, that's a 2 plus or a 2 minus, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's still
sure.
technically a 2,
Still
right? Like,
technically too.
so like if you can make the assessment a little cleaner, a little more advanced, and I think the cool part that you're talking about is like taking all of the different influences that you've had and using their best aspects and like making it into one thing for your assessment process.
100%. That's, you know, that's exactly what I've tried to do. And it's been really working. I mean, we're like, just for an example, I got a D1 baseball player. He came to us, he was at another facility, and he's like, dude, something, you know, my arm's falling off. You know, so I started just taking literally still photos. And right off the jump, I'm like, oh my God, this kid, you know, you could just see the rhomboid inflammations through the roof. His opposite side QL is 2 times the size. You know, and then I started getting my hands on him. I'm like, every time he goes into flexion, his PSIS is just shifting, you know, multiple degrees. And it just shows you, like, you know, it's okay to say, I'm only going to stretch this left side QL, and I'm only going to work on retraction to bring my arm back in on the right side only. And just taking all these things and getting out of this big box. Here's how to do, you know, XYZ. It's old, it's outdated. You know, so I'm just trying to really take all that stuff and build what's going to make the best athlete.
So do all of your coaches on staff know the assessment process? Is that like, obviously you talked about earlier about like an onboarding of education and everything. Like, at what point do you let them do it, or are you doing all of the assessments for everybody that walks in your door? Because obviously you got to run a business, bro. Like you
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
coaching, you got to be a dad. Like, how are you balancing all of that?
So when I'm getting like a new athlete that's in here, like they're like a legit D1 athlete that's coming in, I take the assessment just to make sure that we're doing it properly. Because ultimately I'm the only one that went out for the certification. Everyone else, what we've done is we actually have like a educator on our staff. His name's Chris. So he's our director of education. So every 2 weeks we get together as a staff and we go over things like this, right? So we've done multiple now, you know, just seminars for our staff where I'm teaching this assessment. From that, I want them to do the same. Like, here's our base layers. Like, you have to do XYZ. all this in between stuff, like here's what I'm saying. There's some staples that we keep. And then if you want to test TVA activity, you can do that 15 different ways. You don't have to do the one way that I do it. If you like testing a TVA this way, do it that way. But as long as we're keeping certain points in there similar, that's what we've done. So now they've all kind of taken their little spin on it, which I like because they have backgrounds and they've come from other facilities where they've learned stuff that they like to incorporate. But as long as that core focus is staying true, then I'm happy.
And then when they assess, the clientele, I would assume those are the ones that they like work with, or do
Yeah.
you kind of just it's all hands on deck?
So it's everything. So like we'll get a new person in and I'm like, oh, you're a fighter. Work with our guy Nick who works with our fighters. If you work, if you're a soccer player, then you're working with John. He's from England and fucking grew up touching a football. So it's like it's what you do. But at the base of it, we're one of the only staffs that I've ever been around. Like when I go out on vacation or something, I kick all my clients to someone else. When John's out on vacation, he kicks all his clients. Everyone is on the same page and at the same level that we can just swap in and out. There's no drop off, which is like a blessing to have. And that's honestly, it's been through what we're doing education wise, but also the stipulations that we're putting on the hiring process.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. What's like a typical day look like for you versus like your coaches? Like obviously you're the Hefe. Like
Yeah.
what's that kind of look like?
So it depends on the day. What I hired a business coach last year. Shout out Jim Mahan, who's awesome. And what he's really done is had to structure my day to be efficient, right? So I'm playing kind of three roles. I'm playing a strength and conditioning coach. I am playing a CEO, and I'm playing a business owner that's coming up with ideas and just trying to make this ship run, which is a really hard balancing act. On top of it, my biggest job, as you alluded to, is being a husband and being a father. So like I'll give you today for an example, as opposed to tomorrow. So today is Tuesday, right? Tuesday. I go in later on Tuesdays now. And the reason I do that is I wake up, I spend breakfast with my son and with my wife. I go to the gym close by my house where I don't know a single person. And I do that 2 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays. So I lift 2 times a week. That literally keeps me sane. I will go there. I'll get a 30-minute balls to the walls workout in. I leave. I got my first client at 9. I'll do 9 straight through until 2 o'clock. So I have clients all the way from 9 to 2. From 2 to 2:30, I do all my nutrition programming for the week. So I have about 15 clients that I'm programming for. Then from 3 to 5:30, I have clients again. After that, I leave and I shoot home. And I instantly we start cooking dinner for our son. I get to spend a little bit of time with my wife after we put our son down to sleep, which is usually 6:30-ish. We might watch a show, 45 minutes. She usually goes to bed. She goes to bed early. Once that's done, I start cleaning up the house. I shower, and then my work begins for the rest of the week. So typically from 9:30 till about midnight, I'm answering all my emails. I'm setting up my schedule for the week. I'm checking in with my manager, Dawn, seeing how our staff is doing. I'm checking in with our director of personal training. I'm reading all our books, our numbers. What's our projection for the month? Where's our plus minus? I mean, everything you could think of from a business aspect from 9:30 to 12. Then I go to bed. And like tomorrow, I'll wake up. I'll go to bed around midnight. I'll wake up at 4:45 some days. And I'm in facility by 6 a.m. And I have clients from 6 a.m. to noon straight. And then I go into manager mode. So from noon to 3, I have meetings. So I meet with every single person on our staff. With tomorrow is like an all staff meeting. So I'll do a whole all staff meeting with all 15 of us. Rinse, repeat, fucking lather, rinse, repeat, dude. Then I'm back home and it's just every day churning.
Yeah, see the thing is I think every strength and conditioning coach, probably athletic trainer, just anybody in the performance field thinks about like, I want to own my own facility someday or run my own business. And then it's like, these are all the things that like I would have no idea how to balance all of that. I have no idea, like, looking at spreadsheets and budgeting and, like, kudos to you for, like, 1, hiring a business coach, 2, like, you've mentioned a director of education, a manager, a director of personal training. Like, you have people that,
Oh yeah.
you can delegate those things to, and obviously you have to have trust in those people, but
Yeah.
knowing you, I'm sure you're not micromanaging them, you're just putting good
Yeah.
people in place and
Yeah.
letting them do the thing.
Yep.
Um, and being structured and, like, also having a child and a wife at home adds another layer to that.
People there.
So kudos to you for doing all of that. It makes me not wanna ever do any of that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, like, you either go private or you go, into the, like, collegiate pro route. So, like, I think it worked out well for both of us for
Yeah,
sure.
there you go. Yeah.
And I don't think I wanna switch sides with you, but,
It's
um,
yeah,
it's
it's a
it's
lot.
cool to see everything that you're doing, man, and, like, it's really eye-opening to me to, like, hear all of this and be like, "Oh, shit, I had no idea he was doing all of this." I know I when I text you, I was like, "Bro, I know you're the busiest guy in the world, but can we carve out some time for a podcast?" Like,
Uh,
I didn't know it was that busy. I knew it was busy. I didn't know it was that busy.
Yeah, so like when I first opened, I was everything. I was the cleaner, I was the front desk staff, I was everything, right? It was just me. And we were open, 6 days a week from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I didn't see my wife for a year straight. And then I started hiring people, and that takes time. You're getting business in. But the first year I was doing 90 sessions a week, just me. So if you've trained someone before, you know what 90 sessions a week will do to your body. I was literally broken. So I went from 90 to 75 to 50, and now I'm at about 40. So I'm currently training about 40 sessions a week, and everything else is just managing and running a business. So
And even that, like, 40 sessions is still
uh,
not
it's a
not
lot, dude. It's a
nothing.
lot, man.
Stick that, man.
A
Well,
lot. I drink
yeah.
a lot of caffeine, so
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you're a big guy, you need the caffeine anyway, so
I know. Jesus. Yeah.
that's, it's all pretty cool, man. It's just really, it's interesting, like I said, for me, it's very eye-opening to kinda see behind the curtain of what it takes to run a successful business,
Oh
and,
yeah.
every time I see on Instagram, like, you have videos on your in your gym, like, it just looks packed, probably good like, you're probably at full capacity every time I'm watching your videos, so,
It's been fun. It's been a
yeah.
fun couple of years. So it's been fun.
Um Okay, so anything else that we missed, man? I mean, we talked assessments, we talked athletes, we talked training, we talked, life and balance and all of that. Like, is there anything else that we missed about the business or about you or just really anything?
No, I would just say lastly, like I would really just empower anybody to whatever realm and whatever you want to do in strength conditioning or health and fitness. I tell this to I just spoke at St. John Fisher University 2 weeks ago to their class, strength conditioning class. And I told him the same message. There's no right and there's no wrong. I used to get shit on. I gave up a free education, a free year of education, almost $70,000 a year at Salisbury to be a grad assistant, to move home and work towards opening my own facility. People shit on me. It's still to this day. I'm like, I gave up $70,000. Guess what? I knew in my heart that's the track I wanted. I stuck to it. And I've worked very hard to align myself with people. But one thing that I will never, and I will say this to anybody, give your time for free. I remember the days where we were going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, waking up at 4 in the morning, eating breakfast in silence together. We didn't say a fucking word, and we just walked over to the facility when it was freezing cold out, and you just start your day. But those moments taught me what hard work is and learning and surrounding myself with people that are successful people. So the biggest thing, and I'll kind of end it with this, is it does not matter what track you want to go into, but if you're going to do it right, do it well, and give your time and align yourself with people in the field. You can learn from anybody. So I just want to see the field keep growing, and I like hearing stories. Like I still joke all the time. My goal is for me and you, we live together. I want to be the best two fucking strength and conditioning coaches that's ever come out of Salisbury. And I joke about that all the time, but I feel it's true. We've worked very hard, and And I've mimicked, you know, your work ethic living with you, and seeing the amount of detail and attention you put into stuff has driven me to be better. And you know, hopefully that just trickles, and we just keep creating a community of better strength coaches. So
Yeah, my brother is in exercise science now,
oh yeah,
Philip, and
shout out Phil.
yeah, shout out Phil. And you know, I've been telling him like you don't have to do baseball. Like strength
Nope.
and conditioning is, you know, all over the place. People
Oh,
want to train all over. You want to work with F1, you do it. You want to work with badminton, you do it. If you want to
everywhere,
work with
bro.
baseball, you do it. If you want to work with, you know, moms that have kids in high school, you do it. Like there are people
Yep.
that will pay you to train. It's just
It's
like
fitness,
you
it's
said,
health.
whatever you
Oh,
do, just commit to it and put all of your like you know your work ethic into it and really commit and surround yourself with like-minded people and like-minded workers. And it's been awesome to follow your journey, man. I'm glad we're reconnecting again.
oh
And
yeah, dude.
you know, I loved all the videos of your absolute unit of a child. Like gonna
Ah,
be a menace someday. Gonna be an absolute
He's
menace
not
someday.
a I apologies to all the class of like 2040 quarterbacks that are coming out. My son is gonna absolutely destroy you.
Yeah,
So
he's already ready to eat
shout out.
quarterbacks.
He's in
So
the 90th, he's in the 90th percentile. So he's a big boy.
well,
So
between your
yeah.
genes and your dad's genes,
I
like
know, right? Oh my
an
God. And
absolute
listen,
unit.
Julie's a hell of an athlete. She was
Yeah.
ranked #1 in New York State at one point for gymnastics. So she's got like that twitchy, bouncy, quick twitch. So kid's gonna be a
He's gonna
freak.
be a unit. He's gonna be a unit. So it's been good catching up,
Uh,
buddy. I appreciate
absolutely,
your
man.
time, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Hell yeah. Thank you, bro.